It seems like something is missing. I didn't want to have to do this, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I'm so very desperate. Please give me a sign. You have to do this because I'm speaking in rhyme. What a hunk of junk. Okay, my apologies. I will not waste your time any longer. It'd be awful nice if this whole thing, came to something. Thanks, but I'll pass. It'd be for the best if I didn't. Let's cut to the chase. You know what I'm looking for. Give me the goods, Daddy-O. Yes, dreams really do come true. I wish to have a short conversation with Pulitzer Prize-winning critic Jerry Saltz about his new book, How to Be an Artist. What kind of artist was your intended audience for this book? An artist just dipping their toes into the water, or an artist with a master's, or someone else?
Thanks, Michelle, and let me artsplain that. As some of your listeners may or may not know, I am a failed artist. I wanted to be an artist. Long story short, I quit in my late 20s and then spent way more than a decade exiled as a long-distance truck driver. I have no degrees. I didn't go to school. Huge loser. However big of a loser you all think you might be, I promise, I'm bigger and I'm not proud of that. I did not begin writing until I was over 40, and I had never written a word in my life. I'm a terrible reader to this day. I usually pick one gigantic book, the Iliad, Paradise Lost, something ridiculous, and spend the whole year reading it very, very carefully, but in a year, and I've been doing that about 20 years. How to Be an Artist is a funny thing. It's almost like a letter to my former self, the younger artist who listened to the demons like you do, like I did this morning. Before I got up, I thought, yeah, the bottom has fallen out of this piece. I can't write it. I have to quit. I'm no good, blah, blah, blah. Same old jam. And it's a note to kind of take care of people as artists. It's not for the super professional, frankly, Michelle.
What books would you recommend to other artists?
I've never met Austin, but he blurbed my book. Thank you, Austin. And yes, I very much agree about his book. Don't be afraid, read the damn thing. And stealing is very good. That's all artists are really doing. They look at art and they're like, look at it like this, and they're sniffing on it. I know what they're doing. You can always find the artist in every show, in every gallery. They're stealing. They're saying, how was this made? There's sand in the paint. I could use that. Or, interesting way to title things. Nice subject matter. I never read The Artist's Way, but of course I'm familiar with it. It's been a kind of background radiation my whole life. I think when I was your age, it might have been out. I like Calvin Tompkins' book, Off the Wall. And these guys in Calvin Tompkins' book, it just kind of explains how they lived in no money, no art world, no fuck nothing. And they built a new artwork that in a way, the background radiation of the one that is now dying is dying. When Jasper Johns dies, he's 90. Soon or whenever, that's the end of that era. That's it. He's the last man standing. My era, we did great. 90s, fucking killed it. I think that's the greatest generation, but that's me. I just love a lot of that art. And read Off the Wall. Read Roberta Smith. You can read me online. It's not that bad. That's what I would read. And pick a big book. A structure so big it never went away.
Since this is a letter to your former self, if you could go back in time and tell yourself one piece of advice from this book, what would it be?
Anytime you work as an artist, you will be embarrassed. There is no way around it. I'm embarrassed now. That's the price of admission into the house of creativity. And you will be afraid because you're bound, if you're committed and you have faith in being radically vulnerable. That is speaking, writing, dancing, tweeting, singing in your own voice, singing your own song, using whatever crapola skills you may have or may not have, like me, none. You at least want the person that you're trying to reach believe in a kind of convincingness that it's you. I just want people to work in their own voice, be unafraid, don't be afraid to get lost. Work comes from work. Get to work, you big babies. There are no excuses. This is an all-volunteer army, my loves. I am poor to this day, and I'm ancient, okay? I was poorer, probably, than most of your hearers and watchers now. Really, I was poor, and I still am. I'm not complaining. You have to make an enemy of envy, and you must do this by the end of the day. Envy is in the service of others, Michelle. I was an envious man. I looked at the world thinking, you owe me a living. How come not me? You know, you have more money. You have better ankles. His hair is better. Oh, she just got the job because of this. I don't really care about you. I actually care about your work, because for me, as a deeply damaged, happy, ecstatic human being, you are your work to me. You could even be a kind of a bad person and an asshole, but if I liked your work, I would give you everything I have.
When you see an artist, what makes you say this artist is successful?
For me, the definition of success is not happiness. I'm successful. People think I'm successful, and fine, good. I get to be recognized actually when I walk down the street. I am known in galleries. I'm not the best critic. I may be a bad critic, but by all metrics, I'm probably the most read critic. I'm successful, but I'm not always happy. Is it money? God damn, I would love to have money. I want all artists to make money. The good, the bad, and the very bad. I have no problem with everybody making money because I'm not envious. I dealt with that demon because envy, like I said, is in the service of others. It looks out and sees what others have, and it blinds you to yourself, and it will eat you alive. Success for me is not therefore money, although I wish we all had it. It's easier. And it's not happiness, because I get unhappy. Even when I won the Pulitzer, the next morning, I was terrified of going back to my deadline. Maybe that night, I don't even remember now. The definition of success is time. The definition is time to do your work. That is all I measure it by. And I would ask every artist, honest, open question, how big of an audience do you need? Do you need a Jeff Koons-sized audience? Be nice, be fun, be on ArtNet every morning about, whatever ridiculous art you're making or whatever. How many people do you need to be successful, to get the time to do this ridiculous thing that you're being called by higher powers or beyond your head to do, and that you can't not do because it's like breathing and eating metaphorically to you? I would say for an artist, you need very few people. One dealer. I would say you need 2 critics around your own age. So this is now a total of 3 people. All 3 people who you can kind of pull the wool over their eyes and you fake out and make them at least think you're not shit. Okay? That's 3. 2 critics, a dealer. I would say you could survive in today's world with about only 5 collectors. Now, what do I mean? That means they buy work from you from time to time. Not at a fortune, but whatever cost you're at. They stick with you through the good times and the not so good. Same with the dealer. You hate them half the time and they hate you the other half, but they won't show it and you don't show them. Just you're all using each other in a beautiful way. So now we've got 5, 6, 7, 8 people. You could use a curator or 2. Some other jerk like me or you that says, I'm going to put Michelle in this crapola show that I think is the best thing ever, wherever it is. So right now, all I'm saying is if you can you not get 10 people or 12 people? Once you do that, I've met artists who become very successful from one person. There's lifestyles of the poor and famous artists. Don't forget that. I'm from that generation. Vito Acconci, world famous, man in black, the Johnny Cash of the art world, right? He made no money. I visited him at the end of his life, living in a shithole that he loved in Brooklyn. He was ecstatic because he had the time.
Can you tell me a little bit about an artist who you don't particularly enjoy and what they might have taught you?
Great question. After a few initial pieces of liking, now don't forget I was there, I met a young kid named Jeff Koons and another kid named Damien Hirst. Jeff was then totally alcoholic. And Damien, he's English, so they're always drunk and happy. They just vomit at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I really dug what I was seeing of their work at first. As I got older and they got older and I became a real writing critic, I was not writing in 1990 when I met them and knew them, or Koons in the mid-'80s. I realized that a lot of Damien's work was really showy, and it could be in restaurants, and it seemed like he was purposely picking shock your grandma subject matter, that he was in a line of making product. These were all negatives for me. But I also, by unpacking that, could see a little bit more, 2 things. One, about my taste, that I do have a problem when it gets a little bit bombastic, okay? That's just my taste. Other people would love over-the-moon crazy, like if you've ever heard of Jason Rhodes or Paul McCarthy, people that poop on the floor and make gigantic installations, or Dieter Roth, R-O-T-H. My taste pulls back a little before that. But I also learned some of their secret weapons, what they were deploying. So when you don't like something about something, that's not bad. Every single thing you see, if you get quiet inside, Michelle, and I wrote this, you will tell yourself something you didn't know you needed to know until you know it, and then you're kind of a fucking genius. You then have your little soundbite about Damien Hirst. I don't care if you don't like him, but you better kind of be able to unpack his strengths. What is it that reaches people in his work? It's not just the shock. There has to be something else. So you just keep unpacking. What reaches people in Rembrandt? It's the same question. All art is subjective. I cannot prove that Rembrandt is better than Norman Rockwell. Sometimes I like a Rockwell.
At Artsplained, we have had the question posed to us, is art something that should be explained? What would your answer to that be?
My wife is Roberta Smith, the co-chief art critic for the New York Times. We've been married 30 years. She's a real art critic. I'm more of a folk critic. I love myself, but if you want to read a real art critic, The Doors of Perception, Roberta is a seeing machine and a writing machine who I think is the greatest master of the form of the review that's ever lived. But, test her against whoever, I'm fine. We were just listening to the last movement of a Mozart Requiem. It could happen with Dancing Queen too. And we were both just so taken away by it, right? And you don't try to understand it. You might, again, try to find its deep content. How does it work? Why is it working? To me, beauty is what works. An ugly swing in baseball often will produce an extraordinary hitter. Each one of us, Michelle, like I said in the first answer, we find what works for us. We find our own voice. Do I understand Mozart? I do not. Do I understand Walt Whitman? No. But I soar. I know the deep content that he makes me think. Or listening to Moby Dick, and the mad captain on a mad ship, and doom, 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 right? This ever sort of sucking thing that we feel now. We're all on the Pequod. Somebody said we owe it to the Holocaust not to understand it. And I actually think what we're all talking about is it's based on thinking, knowing, understanding, and experience. These are experiences. I think that art is no more or no less important than religion, philosophy, psychology, economics, all those things. Art is part of the whole ball of wax, and it's unfolding. I think art is the greatest operating system devised by our species ever. It allows us to explore consciousness, ourselves, others, the unseen world, hell, dreams, the seen world of animals and your tabletop and what other people look like. And it's proved endlessly flexible that art will go away when all of the problems that it was invented to solve have been addressed. And then it might go away. It's never not been with us since at least the caves. And there's now more and more and more evidence that 1 million years before us, Neanderthal women and men were not only making hand stone axes, baskets, had a material culture of trade where one tribe would cross with another trade, materials, not seeds, but just materials and pigment, that some of those hand axes were painted. Why? They had fire, but they also had something like painting. It's just that none of it survives. 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of just cave art, and that's only 40,000 years survives. So that's how much we have in it. And of all the art ever made, probably 1% of 1% of 1% survives. It's a miracle anything survived. We all know that Leonardo's Last Supper, the entire building was bombed on August 8th by the Allies, our side, and the whole building went down except that wall. And it has sandbags all over it. Really, the painting we know of the Last Supper today, it's been repainted so many times, but it's still kind of great, I guess. All of that makes art kind of so worthwhile and kind of beyond understanding, although I try to understand it too. But never ask an artist, what does your work mean? I don't know what my work means. I can tell you what I was thinking and feeling and what I might have been trying to get at, but I cannot control the meaning of my work. You can make a sculpture of a still life about the sunshine or about COVID, and I could look at it and go, oh, I guess this is about cooking and like being trapped. And that's what it's about to me. You don't control the meaning of your work, especially once you're gone. I don't think we use 99 point whatever percent of most art the way other people thought it was going to be used. So I wouldn't worry about understanding anybody, just experience and take the time, not just for success, but to get quiet. Put the hysteria aside inside of yourself going, I don't know what to think. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to think. I don't know if this is correct to think. Look at, in your private life, you've done evil things, not in public and never in real, but you have to like really tap into what you're seeing and doing. It's easy. It's really easy. Just get to work, you big babies.
Let's say that this time next year, there's a COVID-19 vaccine available. If you could look into a crystal ball, what do you think you would see for the art market if that becomes possible?
In 12 months, I think already many galleries are gone and we don't know. I think the structure of our art world, you're going to be traveling to art fairs. I never did, and I'm not against them. I want everyone to have made money at them, and I know it was a system that no one liked, but no one knew how to change. COVID has changed that. You're going to be getting on planes as anybody. Are we ever going to think it normal for a gallerist to fly to London for her artist's opening in a gallery or museum and then on to Basel, blah, blah, blah. I'm not against it. I envied it, but as it were, I don't see that. From that side or ours, I see big changes. I see your generation being given the greatest opportunity since I was your age. When I was just entering the art world a second time, there was AIDS that had been raging and horrible recession. Everything was shut down. Commercial real estate was devastated. The same way right now, the commercial real estate market is being destroyed. That's great. It means that losers like you could do what losers like me. I built the art world along with millions of other losers like me. You guys are being tasked with making this new world. The old one is already gone. Yeah, the megas will survive, McDonald's, Hyatt, Regency, whatever. I never miss a show there. We can make fun of them. That's our job. We'll all get jobs there too, and they'll employ employ us, but people like you are going to build a new art world with new dealers, new critics, new curators, new artists, new collectors. If you build it, Michelle, they will come. I promise you, you and your vampire friends your own age will start to stay up late at night making these new syntaxes and languages and galleries and etc. of that infrastructure. And older critics, we won't quite know. I'll smell it in the air. I'll meet people like you and go, I was on her podcast once. I used to be somebody, right? When you have a ridiculous small gallery or you're in a ridiculous small show that's starting to get noticed. Critics, may I speak to you for a second? I'm poor still, okay? You ain't never going to make money, ever. There never was and there never will be money in criticism. You don't get into this for that. The same way artists, they love money, but they're not getting into it for that. Start writing, for God's sake, and write in a language that people understand. Please, you're writing, the natural coefficient of the dialectic of post-capitalist Marxism finds its nature-culture oppositions in a haptic liminal space. And you can write that way, and I've never understood a word of it, and I secretly think about 85% of us don't understand it, but it's so smart, and they have all the jobs. It's like the Trump administration. It's a grift, almost. They own the schools, great. I want people to have jobs. They are in all the magazines, great. I'm jealous, so what? They have a readership, they can support it. They 155 people writing for the same 155 people about the same 155 artists and their prices. Why is ArtNet and Art News ever report prices? What do prices have to do with fucking anything? I love that whoever sold Banksy sold for 14 million yesterday, but it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't make his art much worse than it is. Certainly doesn't make it better. Critics, put out opinions. Don't be afraid. You will not be loved. You're not in this for love. None of us are. You're in this for credibility, to have a little respect. You may not respect me, but I think you think that I actually think what I'm saying. That's the credibility, that voice that I've tried to give myself so others will give it to me. I am touring 20 new assholes a day online. It hurts. I hate it. It's like, how could you not like me? Or how could you disagree with that? But I learn from every criticism. I really do. I think there's a grain of truth to every criticism that meant that what you did allowed an idiot critic to misunderstand what you did. In short, I would say, critics, write your opinion, be brave. Artists, speak in your own voice. Be embarrassed. Stay up late. The art world is not destroyed, but it's in ruins. And you are tasked with, if you want to, if you don't, that's fine with me. If you want to just work at the museums and the megas and do that, that's great.
Any last words?
My name is Jerry Saltz, and thank you for watching Artsplained. Thank you, Michelle.
We want to give a very warm thanks to Jerry Saltz for his time and his delightful humor.